Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with your Inside Power. We are trying to transform your lives so that you learn to live from the inside out, so that you can create the life that you want with mathematical certainty. So today we're on part 4 of our study about prosperity. And, if you haven't watched the other episodes, the prosperity is not just financial prosperity. The same principle can be used for whatever it is that you want, whether it's a better relationship, better health, wealth, of course, or, just to obtain that item or thing that you really want. So I want to tell you a story that will kind of set up today's lesson. There's a story that a man died and he went to heaven, and he was meeting with St. Peter outside of the pearly gates. And so St. Peter took him inside to heaven and was showing him around, but he kept avoiding this rather large building. And the man kept saying, Peter, what is that building over there? And St. Peter would say, you do not want to see what's inside there. And so they'd go on and they'd look at another building and he'd show them, other things in heaven. And the man kept badgering St. Peter about what's in this building, this huge building over here. And so finally he just wore St. Peter down and he said, okay, I'll show you what's inside there. So they opened this building and they saw these rows and rows and rows of boxes from the bottom of the floor to the top of the ceiling. And the man quickly realized that they were in alphabetic order. So he ran down to the aisle and he was searching and searching, and he found his box. And so he pulled that box off the shelf and he opened it up and he started to look through this box, and nothing looks very familiar. And he finally looked at St. Peter and he goes, what is this? Nothing here. I don't recognize any of this. And St. Peter said, those are the gifts God wanted to give you if you'd have only asked. Now, what I want you to start thinking about is, what things do you really want? And I want you to start thinking of a box. And you might want to get a box and actually put things in it so that you can see what it is that you want. Because until you really clarify what you want, it's very difficult for the universe to give it to you. But start thinking of those things that, you've had these ideas come to you. And sometimes even if it's something we really want, we start to decide, oh, we can't get that for whatever reason. And then we start to rationalize why it is that we can't get it. So today I want you to really think about that magic box that you have with everything in it. Now, in the last episode, I read you part of Wallace Science of Getting Rich in this paragraph that talks about the substance, because you really do have to believe in this if you're going to be able to follow through with what we're talking about today. So it says, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. So this thinking substance is around us all the time. It permeates everything. It goes right through my table, then my computer's on, it's going right through the computer, it's going right through me. It's penetrating and permeating through everything that's in my room. A thought in this substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. A thought in this substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So by impressing your idea into this formless substance, you can cause that which you want to be created. So let's think about that magic box for a minute. If you open the magic box and you had everything in it, everything that you want. A new house, a new car, the financial freedom, the money in an investment account, the retirement account. You have things for your children, your grandchildren. You have the best relationship with your significant other. You have everything that you could ever imagine. It's all in this magic box because you followed those steps. You put those ideas out there. You allowed them to be imaged in that formless substance, and with faith and belief and focus, they came to you. How would you feel? Would that change the vibration that you're in today? Would you be in a much higher vibration? You see, I'm doing a little experiment with myself, and every day I'm listening or reading a passage to change my vibration. Every time I hear it, I can feel myself shifting to a higher vibration. You see, if you had everything in your magic box, you would definitely be in a different vibration because you would be in a different conscious awareness. And you would be so communicating with the spiritual part and spiritual side of you that it would be absolutely amazing. So it's a matter of changing your thinking. Now, here's what I want to caution you about. You see, a little bit later in the book, this is what Wattles says. The moment you permit your mind to dwell with dissatisfaction upon things as they are, you begin to lose ground. You fix attention upon the common, the ordinary, the poor and the squalid and mean. And your mind takes the form of these things. Excuse me. Then you will transmit these forms of mental images to the formless, and the common and the poor and the squalid and mean will come to you. That is cautionary, is it not? Excuse me, a little tickle in my throat. So we can just as easily attract the very thing we don't want into our lives by focusing on it. So we get a little discouraged. Something didn't turn out the way we expected. Caution, caution, caution. So many times when we get something, or we get a stumbling block, or we get a disappointment, a lot of times, if we just keep focused on what we want, what we'll discover is there's something better. And we have to be discouraged so we don't keep going after that thing when there's something better out there for us. So we really have to start focusing our attention on what it is that we want and not letting it shift. Did you see how easily that can happen? All we have to do is to allow the outside world. See, we're talking about inside power. All you have to do is to allow the outside powers of the world, the reality, the news stories you hear, the discouragement you hear from other people, the thoughts that go through your mind, that little devil sitting on your shoulder telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that. All we have to do is to dwell on the dissatisfaction, and we begin to lose ground. Listen to that again. The moment you permit your mind to dwell with dissatisfaction upon things as they are, you begin to lose ground. So you can be going right towards your goal, and then you dwell on the dissatisfaction and you begin to lose ground. You fix attention upon the common, the ordinary, the poor and the squalid and mean, and your mind takes the form of these things. Then you will transmit these forms or mental images into the formless. Why? Because you're focused on it. You're focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on how bad things are instead of focusing on how good things are. And the common, the poor, and the squalid and mean will come to you. To permit your mind to dwell upon the inferior is to become inferior and to surround yourself with inferior things. So think about your life. Steve Jobs says you can only connect the dots looking backwards. You can never connect the dots going forward. Look back at times in your life. And whether we want to believe it or not, and sometimes it's really difficult for us to believe it, any disappointment, anything that went wrong, we caused. Why did we cause it? Because we were focusing on the wrong thing. And we allowed our minds to become saturated with the very thing that we did not want, instead of keeping focused. Wallace says it's the hardest thing in the world to think truth, what it is that you want, when you're looking at reality, the way things are, which is why so few people do it. 5% really gets down to about 2% of the people. Because while these concepts are not difficult, the doing of them is not easy. So we have to be able to change our thinking, and we can no longer look at what's not going well. We have to look at what the truth of what we want and focus on that. So if you think of that box as your consciousness, as what it is that you want, that's what you're going to get. So the laws govern everything. They govern the good that you get. They govern the things that you don't want in your life. So you can choose the good, or you can choose what you don't want. And either way, the law is working. You see, sometimes we think it's not working for us because we're not getting what we want. But in actuality, the law is working. It's you that's working the wrong way. So what we have to do is to recognize and become very aware of our thinking and recognize that consciousness. And then we have to, as we share this with others and we share this information and we share what it is that we want, that increases our power, it increases how we multiply, it increases how we bring things towards us. So I want you to realize that financial wealth, great relationships, great health come from within. I have a friend, and I cannot get through to her that she needs to quit focusing on how she feels. Yes, she has some health issues, but I guarantee you that the focus on them is what causes her every day to wake up and doubt if she feels good. That's like the first thing she focuses on in the morning. How am I going to feel today? Am I going to be able to make it through the day? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do that? That is the wrong thought pattern. I'm not saying if you're not well that you don't need to take care of yourself, but don't let that be the total conversation. Don't allow people to ask you, so how are you doing today? And then you tell them exactly how you feel. If somebody says to you and you're not well and they say, how are you feeling today? Tell them you feel great, even if you don't. First of all, if you don't feel well, but you keep saying, I feel great, everything's great, then you'll start to get that way. I remember the first time I had COVID, actually my whole family had it. My husband gave it to myself and my daughter and my granddaughter and my son. And so we were all kind of suffering together. And my granddaughter, who had very, very few symptoms. In fact, she did not believe she had COVID until she realized something didn't taste right to her. And I said, it's because you have a COVID. It doesn't taste right. And so anyway, she kept saying I kept saying, I feel great. I feel great. I feel great. And she would laugh, and she texted her mom because she had gone home and my granddaughter was with me, and she texted her mom, says, your grandma says she feels great. Cough, 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 cough. Well, you know what? What good does it do to say, I feel lousy, and tell everybody your problems? It doesn't do you any good. And it doesn't do the other person any good, because, they're just really asking to be courteous. They're not really, really overly concerned, generally speaking, and, unless it's a loved one. But, people just ask that because they just care about you. But what I want you to keep in mind is, don't tell them. Tell them you feel great. Tell them this is one of the best days you've had. And pretty soon, those days will start to increase. Because it's like just a financial. If you can look at your finances and 51% of the day you feel great about it, you are making progress. So we have to look at this box of consciousness. I'm sorry I got so far off track there, but it just felt like it just needed to let people know that, that if you're not feeling well, just pretend like you are and go through your life like everything's great. So financial wealth comes from thinking and acting and believing. So we think the prosperity that we want. We act as if we've already got it. That doesn't mean you go spend your money. That means you act as if everything is great. Instead of dwelling upon the bills that you have, you be thankful that you can pay them. Be grateful that you have electricity. Be grateful that you have a car. Be grateful that you have a house to live in. And start being having that gratitude. Because why? Do you see that chapter? I was reading that to you. That was from a chapter on gratitude. And that's why it's so important, because the moment you think dissatisfaction, you start losing ground. And you know what? I can tell you, and you can probably verify this in yourself. When you focus on a bill or a payment that you have, and you think, I don't have the money for it, and you focus on that part, then you just feel worse, and you just feel like nothing's ever going to be right. And then you become Eeyore. Eeyore is my favorite character in Winnie the Pooh. I just love Eeyore because it's just that character, like nothing's right. And so you become your own Eeyore. And so we have to start focusing on what we want. Now, let me give you an example. So I had to get my car inspected a few weeks ago, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. I thought, this is going to be an easy inspection, take the car in, and our local car dealer does free inspections and so on. And they couldn't inspect it because they need new brakes and need a new tie rod. And it was like, oh, great. And so $800, a little over $800 later, it was fixed and it was inspected. Now, I could have been upset thinking, $800. But you know what I said to my husband? Yeah, it's $800, but I don't have a car payment. So if I have to pay $800 for a year so that my car's safe on the road and that I know it's going to stop when I push the brakes, is it worth it? You see, I didn't get all bummed out about the $800. I was like, it's $800. And that's just $800. I don't have a car payment and everything's good. And it's safe now. So it's the way you look at it. And that's the way you have to constantly be looking at things so that you keep your vibration where you want it. Because when you allow that dissatisfaction to creep in, you pull that vibration down, you pull your feeling down, and that just makes you feel worse. Now, here's some good news. You see, the laws of the universe, the laws of supply, the laws of cause and effect, they don't care who you are. They do not choose winners and losers. You choose. It's your choice. So you decide whether you want to be a winner or you decide whether you want to be a loser. The universe will give you what you want. And those two sections I read to you are perfect examples explaining it. You see, there's a substance, and any thought you have in that substance produces that in your life. Not immediately, because you also have to put in action. You have to do things. You have to think in a certain way. You have to do things in a certain way. When you allow that dissatisfaction to seep in, you start to go backwards and you start to lose ground. So your consciousness, everything that's happened to you, every event that you've had has been part of your consciousness. It's been part of how you've thought about it. So what you have, the things you have, where you are in life, how you act, how you behave, how you carry yourself, how you converse with others, how you interact with people, who comes to you, the people that come into your life, the people that leave your life, the opportunities that you attract to yourself, the problems that you have, it's all part of your consciousness. It's all part of choices that you've had. And the consciousness, listen to this, determines the factors of every experience, circumstance, and condition in your life. Your consciousness. I want to tell you about this really weird story that happened to me one time. I was just driving down the interstate and I was getting very close to the exit I was getting off at for my town. And I'm driving down and all of a sudden the weirdest thing came into my mind. It was like, I wonder what happens if you ever have a heart attack on a road. Now, I don't know why that thought ever entered my mind. It was just very strange. And I have a feeling, and you can think what you want. This is the way I think. I think it wasn't for me. I think that feeling was not for me because I take the exit. I'm driving down this street into the town, and I had a stop to make before I went home. And all of a sudden, I look at my rearview mirror, and this car is just going very slow behind me. And all of a sudden, it just turns and lands in somebody's yard. Now, I think that was kind of a message, is what happens if you have a heart attack? So I thought, okay, as soon as I get to my destination, because I was a couple blocks away, I park my car and call 911 and tell them what happened. Well, before I even got there, somebody else had already called 911, the sirens were going and everything. And I think that was some kind of a message to me that, somebody was having a heart attack or somebody, some type of medical emergency in the car right behind me. How weird is that? But you see, consciousness, I believe, attracted that into my life. So when you have consciousness, it determines the factors of your experience, your circumstances, conditions in your life. It determines if you're successful or unsuccessful, rich, poor, happy, sad, strong, weak, peaceful, or discord. And you get to determine it all. Now, when I look at my other book that I've been reading by Neville Goddard, it says, you rise to the higher level of consciousness by taking your attention away from your present limitations and placing it upon that which you desire to be. So how do we change our current consciousness? We take the attention away from our current level and put it on our desired person that we want to be. It says, do not attempt this in daydreaming or wishful thinking, but in a positive manner. Claim yourself to be the thing you desire. Claim it. This is who I am. I am that, no sacrifice, no diet, no human tricks. All that is asked of you is to accept your desire. If you dare claim it, you will express it. So claim who you want to be. Claim where you want to be. Claim what you want to be. Claim it into your life and accept nothing less. And don't allow dissatisfaction to come into your life, right? Because you start to lose ground. So claim what you want and see yourself and become that person. He goes on to say, all that is required of you is to be these qualities. All that is required of you is to let these qualities into expression, is the claim, I am that. I am that. Claim yourself to be that which you desire to be, and you shall be. Claim it, demand it. Napoleon Hill talks about that in Think and Grow Rich. You have to demand the riches that you want in your life. He goes on here, expressions follow the impressions. They do not precede them. Expressions follow the impressions. The impressions you make into that formless substance, they don't precede it. Proof that you are will follow the claim that you are. It will not precede it. Claim it. Claim it. Decide who you want to be. Decide what you want in your life. Claim it. And then allow it to happen without allowing discouragements. Why do I keep coming back to discouragements? Because I don't know of anybody that has success that started here and went straight to the top. That's just not the way it works. You are being tested. Yes, it's easy to say, this is who I'm going to be. It's easy. Anybody can do that. Can you continually focus on that truth when a stumbling block hits or discouragement gets in your way or something doesn't happen the way you planned it? Can you still see the truth and keep moving? That's what makes you successful. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you, love to help you move towards it. And, you can find me on LinkedIn under Patricia Stepler. You can find me on Facebook under Patty Stepler. You can see my business under yourdreampower.com. And, I'd love to have the opportunity to talk with you and, help you to see that it is so important for you to realize that all you have to do is claim it, see it, form it in that substance that permeates and penetrates everything, and then become that person. It's Patricia Stepler with your inside power, and I want you to be the magic in your dreams.